everybody. This is the first recording of the Rush podcast. This is Picky Gamer, and this is my partner here. He's a Sega Galactico.
Hey, what's up?
Yeah, I brought him along because he always brings me bail money unless he buys Sega shit. Then I'm in trouble.
Yeah, love
So
that Sega.
yeah, so this is the first podcast. We're going to fall all over each other, especially me. I'm probably not as good as Galactico here with some of these podcasts, but this is just us having fun, shooting the shit. This is about retro gaming, and we're going to try to do this bi-weekly and just have fun. And the reason why I named it the Boss Rush is it reminded me of Mega Man. You get to the end of Mega Man, you have all these bosses coming at you. You have to fight them in order. Well, we're going to have everybody we can that wants to come onto the show and just have fun, have guests come on here and just talk and just see what goes on. So, being the first time we've ever done this, we're going to let some intros go on. So I'm going to shoot it over to Galactico here and let him just tell more about himself.
Well, I started playing games when I was, a kid. Obviously, I got a very cookie cutter story. Started with the Nintendo Entertainment System. I like the first game was obviously Mario and Duck Hunt, and then I remember renting Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong Jr. and that was pretty fun. But the games that like really stand out for the NES for me are like Sky Shark because that was a game my dad played, and like I think of it now and I'm like, man, my dad used to play video games with me, and that's so cool. Like when I was a kid, it was all right. I was like, this is fun, get to play video games, and he's playing. Although he did, I would say he was a little more into it than I was because like when we first played Mario he would always say, "You get to play as Luigi because Luigi's the wimp." Like he would always trash talk me and stuff, and like
Funny.
I remember he was so good at Sky Shark. I remember he woke me up at like 2 in the morning, and he's like, "Hey Jesse, I just beat Sky Shark. What were you doing? Sleeping?" And I was like, "I'm trying to. I gotta go to
Awesome.
school tomorrow." And I also remember like my mom and dad used to play like matches of Dr. Mario like late at night, and they would play on the hardest difficulty, and they would argue so much I couldn't sleep. Like they would cuss each other, say some of the most filthiest things, and like so for the longest time I just hated Dr. Mario because I lost so much sleep hearing them yell at each other all the time. Um, Tecmo Super Bowl, that's another good game for NES. It taught my mom football because she had no idea how football worked. But when we played that, she would play it. Our neighbor would come over and play it. A funny side note: our neighbor was in jail recently for possibly killing his girlfriend, but he got off. On that's another story, and
Okay then.
so
Next
that's
time on
that's
CSI Galactico. Oh, sorry.
that's Florida people for you. Nintendo one day and Captain the girlfriend the next. I mean, murder isn't something to make light of,
No.
obviously, but uh, tech, so Tecmo Super Bowl. Um, my dad would always pick the Raiders because they had Bo Jackson, and Bo Jackson was a god in that game. Um, but from the NES, I moved up to the Sega Genesis, like you do. And it's funny now that I think about it, I had no idea the Sega Master System even existed back then. So, like, I played the Genesis. I used to play Sonic 2 religiously, and I would listen to Smash by The Offspring while I played Sonic 2 because for some reason it made me think that Sonic ran faster when I played that. And so there could be some truth. I don't know. I'm not Dexter Holland or Sega, so I don't know. Toe Jam and Earl Panic on Funkatron was a great game I remember playing on Genesis when I was a kid. Um, there was a bunch of good Sega games I played. Then I moved. Oh, Fantasy Star 3 was the first RPG I ever beat. So there's that gets points up there. From there, I moved to the N64 because I heard Final Fantasy VII was coming out for the N64, and spoiler alert, it didn't. So I was stuck with Quest 64, and boy, I beat that game, but I beat it grudgingly because I hated every minute of it. But I was like, this is an RPG. I love RPG, so I'm gonna play this fucking RPG, even though it's terrible. And I remember the last boss was Mammon, this big floaty thing with like looked like flippers for arms. Hate it. Uh, but there were some good N64 games, obviously. I used to rent the hell out of games for the N64. Blockbuster was like my best friend. I remember renting Banjo Kazooie so many times. That weird Silicon Valley game, that game was awesome. Where you were like this computer chip thing and you could control animals. It was weird. Um, Body Harvest, that game was cool. What was that? Rockstar's one of their first games before Grand Theft Auto. Um, what else was good on? Obviously, Shadows of the Empire. Gotta have Star Wars games. The Rogue Squadron games were great. And my friend, he owned a PlayStation, so once we got sick of our systems, we switched. So I then got to play the PlayStation. He got to play the N64. That was perfect. And then I went from there to the PS2, and I had a friend who really liked the Dreamcast, and I was a stupid kid, so I used to make fun of him for it. And he used to tell me about Shenmue. He's like, "This is a game where you get to like collect capsule toys and stuff." I'm like, "That sounds stupid." A couple years later, I bought a Dreamcast, and Shenmue became one of my favorite games ever. So we all do dumb things when we're kids. Even talk bad about Shenmue.
Oh yeah.
So I guess PS2 is as far back retro as we go. But I did own an Xbox. I had to buy an Xbox for KOTOR and Shenmue 2. So I remember another idiot kid thing. That was the thing when they announced the Xbox. I'm like, that's stupid. Microsoft shouldn't make video games. They should only make computers. They're stupid. And they're like, Shenmue 2 for the Xbox. And I was like, God damn it. So
They got you there.
yeah, so I had Xbox. And of course the GameCube was great. So yeah, and since recently, I've been playing other like I finally got into Sega Saturn because that's the thing with the advertising in my area. I had no idea the Saturn existed. I thought they went from Genesis to uh, the Sega CD. I remember one of our friends had one of those, and I played Sewer Shark and Batman Returns. And I think they had a version of. Did they have a version of Street Fighter on the Sega CD?
I think they did. I
Or
think.
or maybe they just since it was connected to the Genesis, I used to just play Street Fighter on the
Right, you could put
Genesis.
that cartridge on top. So
Yes.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
and the 32X, I didn't know anyone with that thing. So
Yeah.
that's pretty much my just a brief roadmap of my video gaming as a child growing up.
Well, I guess I'm going to date myself because I found out I'm a few years older than you, so I guess I'm going to get some grandpa jokes on this show. But I started with the Atari 2600. Don't laugh. I still got it set.
Blech.
And man, one button is all we needed. But it was fun. It came with combat and all these nice little games. But if you ever watches Angry Video Game Nerd, I've
Yes.
got I've got ET. I've got Raiders of the Lost Ark. And everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, who's got ET?" I do, and it was horrible, but it was okay. And it led into a fight. Got my parents to get me the Nintendo action set. Duck Hunt and Mario,
Yeah.
just like you, and the light gun in there. And it's like, oh, this is cool. And one stuff that really hooked me. My first things I ever rented was a little video. This little video place. I lived out in the country, so we didn't have Blockbuster. We was too
Yeah.
so far out. They actually called themselves Showtime Video. And for people that may ever know where I live, it's like, really? It's like the Showtime place? I don't know how they got around that, but the two I rented was Mike Tyson's Punch-Out and Mega Man 2. That was
Oh
some of the
yeah.
best shit ever. I didn't ever get Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. I rented it enough, but I got Mega Man. I got Mega Man 2. And I kept playing a lot of other games on there. I had, unfortunately, even every time I watch AVGN, I realize he harkens back to me. I've got a copy of Silver Surfer, and I hang my head.
Hey, on
Yeah.
Silver Surfer, Tim Fallon did the soundtrack, and that soundtrack is amazing.
It's an amazing looking
So
game, amazing
yeah,
soundtrack. It's just like,
it's just shit.
you're going to die.
Yeah.
And it's like horrible. But I also, had Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles too, because my local arcades, they had the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle
Oh yeah.
arcade when it came out for the Nintendo. I was like, oh my god! I still got I got it, and I got Mega Man 2, and I got a copy of Super Mario Bros. 3 in the
Oh yeah.
box because it was just so good. Finally moved up to the Super Nintendo, though my parents were like, no, you don't need to be playing games. Well, I saved up my allowance, and I went and got the little mini, I call it the mini set. I think it's called a control deck. When I didn't get Super Mario World, I only got one controller, got into it. First thing I rented for it was Street Fighter 2. Love that stuff, and I ended up with the Overtime Killer Instincts, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4, Mortal Kombat 1 and 2, Zelda, all good stuff. And then also they got me a Game Boy a little bit before there, and that was a good system. The Game Boy was, and then after that, leading into the next generations, I went the opposite route that Galactico here went. I went for the PlayStation, and he, as he laughed and said, "You didn't get Final Fantasy VII." I got that, and I got Final Fantasy VII. Though I wasn't a big RPG person. I'd played Chrono Trigger on the Super Nintendo, really loved it, and my first big one that I got into and I beat was Final Fantasy VII. I know some people go, "Oh my God, shut up about Final Fantasy VII." Well, no.
Well, they can shut up. That's
It's like it is, yeah, just like, and I got it. The really funny story was that I had a off-brand memory card,
Oh yeah.
and it wiped my data twice. I played the first part of Final Fantasy VII like 2, 3 hours into it 3 times. At the second time it did that, I said, "Motherfucker." I got up and went, and I was a little bit older. I could do my own stuff. I could drive. I went to Walmart. And I was just cheap. At the time, it was 30 and $40 sometimes for a good memory card. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm going with the $10 one. Yeah, that screwed me in the ass. And I had to play the first part of Final Fantasy VII 3 times. And then I was like, yay, I got it. I didn't go for the PlayStation 2. I waited, and I went toward the Xbox, and my buddy had the PS2 a little bit later, and I kind of held off for a while. And I never owned a Sega system other than my buddies had the Genesis, and nobody had a Master System, but I did get a console, and I got the Dreamcast, and I was so hyped for it. I bought it and like Xbox. I got them on release day, and it was so good. And then, I had the Code Veronica, Shenmue, and oh my gosh! And the best thing about that system is it played Soul Calibur better than the arcade. I sat there and made my thumb numb playing that. It was just so fun. And of course, later on, this is not as much. That's really ending the retro. I ended up for the Xbox 360 and modern stuff now. So
Yeah.
it's good stuff. I mean, it depends. Like you were talking about, it depends on where you're at and what you heard. Like the Master System, I'd go to
Yeah.
Walmart. They had this piece of shit little section, and I saw these boxes, and I knew what the Sega Master System looked like. And then you had these Nintendo systems, like sections 3 times bigger. And I didn't notice anybody get it, but then in your area, you might have seen different, and it was really weird.
I never saw a Master System.
You didn't?
No, I like I said, I didn't know they existed. I remember going into Toys R Us, and you go down the aisle, and it's just this wall of like slips of paper with like the box art on each
Right.
one, and then that was so cool. And then you would take the slip and you'd go back to the dude, and they'd go back in the secret room where you're like, oh my god, they have every video game ever in that room. One day I should go into that room, and it was just your dream to go in there. And I remember like my grandma would always buy me games like Astyanax on NES and stuff, and I remember that game was cool. It had really big sprites and it looked great, but it was hard as fuck.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, the Toys R Us. I never saw a Master System. I never saw a Neo Geo Pocket Color. I never saw a Sega Saturn. Like, I don't know if I just didn't know what I was looking for. I never saw a Turbo Graphics. I mean,
I never saw Turbo Graphics in my area. Turbo Graphics, I think I may have saw one, like a glimpse of one. The Neo Geo stuff did not exist ever. We're not
Yeah.
big enough of a city around. I'm near, North Georgia, around Tennessee there. So Chattanooga is the big city. So I'm near Atlanta, but we never, I'm that
Yeah.
way back. I never went to Atlanta. Atlanta probably had it, but TurboGrafx, Neo Geo, never saw it. There I only saw Saturn, but it was very, very puny exposure. And those, I think that back to, what was it called? Software, etc. At EB Games before
Yeah.
GameStop came along. So it's like,
Babbage's.
Babbage's. See, I've
Did you
heard of
ever-
that, and I never had one around here.
The best part of Babbage's was they had these two TVs out front, because it was in the mall. They had these two TVs out front, and you could just watch the TVs, and they were just nothing but loops of gameplay footage. And I remember seeing like Ninja Gaiden and stuff on there, and I'd be like, "Oh, that's cool! I want that game." And it always looked more of like like compared to Electronics Boutique, it looked more of a fancier store. I don't know why. Just the Babbage's was like I was like, oh, do I want to buy there or Electronics Boutique? Where wacky, exciting Electronics Boutique. It's weird. And then there was like Rhino and stuff. And um, I remember my friend's neighbor. He had an Atari Lynx, and I'm like, where did you get this thing? I don't. What is
I
this?
saw one of those. Somebody had it in school, and I was like, "Where's this unicorn you found? This
Yeah.
is what?"
I had a Game Gear, and that was fun for all the 30 minutes the batteries would last. I
Oh
remember I
man.
eventually got the cable you could plug into the wall, and I would turn off the lights and play Mortal Kombat. And it was one of those things where I didn't really like the Game Gear games that much for some reason, but since I had the Game Gear, I played it. I
Well, you
remember all
had
the
to.
games were just stupid hard.
Yeah. I remember that's one that I remember. I don't know if you guys in your area had KB Toys.
Yes,
Yeah,
KB.
and it was in an old mall. The mall doesn't even. It's like office centers now. That's how how everything changes. And they had it out in the. They used to have displays that you could go up and play a game. They do that now in Target. Like I actually
Yeah,
got to play Mario Maker 2 or 3 weeks ago and sat there and I was like, "What are you doing? Making Mario game?" She
cool.
goes, "Oh dear God!" She just walked away, just laughing a little bit. But I went up there and it's KB Toys. They had a Game Gear and Mortal Kombat.
Yeah,
And as the little crazy bastard that I was, I knew the code.
yeah.
And I
Blood.
put the blood code in and played it for a little while and came back. And we went down through the mall when my parents came back. Magically, there was a lot of people around that Game Gear. I bet I pissed somebody off in KB.
Awesome.
And I kept thinking about that. It was funny as hell.
That's
Oh,
awesome.
awesome. So, we've done some intros here. We're shooting a shit. This is what it's going to be. Just two people having fun, shooting the shit.
Possibly three.
Possibly three, and that's the thing about it. What do we plan to do here? Well, other than try to rule the world with, like Pinky and the Brain, which they never did right. Ah, poor Pinky. But we're really just here to have fun.
Zoinks!
So, rubber pants. Where are we going to find rubber pants my size?
Narf!
Oh, the rubber pants was the best one. I think when he said that out loud, I think I pissed myself a little bit laughing. I had to back it up on the DVR, but we're going to sit here and just talk about gaming. We're not going to have too much of a script. We're just going to talk about the retro gaming and the topics we think of. We're going to try to do this, and we're going to do it. Of course, December's coming up. Galactico and I, it's just Thanksgiving just hit. Big holidays around Christmas. May not be able to do it, and it happens. Family comes first
Yeah.
always. But we're going to try to do this bi-weekly. And hopefully all you people can listen to our insanity or stupidity or whatever you want to call it and get a kick out of it. And like I said, why I call it Boss Rush, we want you guys to just say, hey, I want to be a part of the insanity. And we'll say, okay, we might get some bail money for you, but come on. We're going to come on and just talk. And that's what we're going to do here. I mean, this is just like I said, the intro one we're doing, but what do you want to talk about here? I mean, like I said, we're trying to shoot for 30 minutes. We got plenty of time. Is there something retro on your mind you'd like to talk about, man?
Oh man.
Like one big topic. I know I'm putting him on a
Caught
spot
me
here. This is
off guard.
awesome.
Damn.
I just
Damn.
reached through Skype here and punched him in the gut.
It's I gotta look to the crowd and you gotta cheer me on as I get my Steam back. Let's see. Controllers, quick. We'll talk about our favorite controllers. How about that?
Yeah, go ahead. Shoot.
Okay. I really like the Dreamcast controller. The only problem is where the cable is, but other than that, I love like the triggers on it, the button placement, the grips on it are nice. I I just really like the Dreamcast controller a lot. The 6-button Sega Genesis controller is really nice too. I'd say those are probably my two of my favorite controllers, with the exception of the PS4 controller is really nice, but that's not retro. So
Right. But, I mean, I think the best controller of all time, and this is the standard answer for some people, is the Super Nintendo. But like I said, I grew up with it. You grew up
yeah,
with the Sega Genesis, and I've held the Genesis controllers in my hand, and they're damn good. I'm looking to get some. I'm hoping to get maybe a retro trio. I need to get me a clone system because my systems are acting up. I pulled out my Super Nintendo and NES from my parents' closets, and my NES has the wavy lines in the video,
oh yeah,
which is indicative of motherboard issues. And Oh, my Super Nintendo, the Mode 7 chip has taken a shit. Because when I, started up Chrono Trigger, I don't know if anybody's seen the intro of Chrono Trigger. Well, a lot of people have. They're like, well, duh. Well, the pendulum goes back and forth. That's a Mode 7. Well,
Yeah.
it looks like something is throwing up on the right side of the screen until Mode
No, that's
7.
just mode 7. It don't got that blast processing.
It don't have blast.
Like
Oh, he got me, people. Yeah, but
more
anytime Mode 7 kicks in,
more like mode 7. Am I right?
oh man. But that's one thing we could talk about later on. You go and pick up these old consoles, and they are not. Sometimes they don't always last.
Yeah.
And look at that. But yeah, Super Nintendo controller is my first one, best one, and yeah, I like the Dreamcast controller. It was neat.
Yeah.
That
And
in
the
the
VMU, man. Oh, you can't beat the VMU.
that was everybody's got all this stuff. Look at Nintendo and love or hate Nintendo the way they're going. They have this big ass gamepad. I don't have a Wii U.
Oh, I love the gamepad.
Well, look at Sega. They did it first. They had a screen
Yeah.
in your head. It was tiny, and you could pull the thing out and play games. Why? Of course, why
Well,
that cord come from the bottom? That they had to put that in there at the top. But yeah, it had great triggers. The analog stick was great, and that D-pad. Oh, it was a good D-pad.
yeah. I'll tell you, I don't particularly like the Saturn controller. The not the 3D one, but the standard one. Like I feel like the control pad is mushy. If that makes sense.
Right, I've seen it. Like I said, I've seen it. It's basically like a Genesis
Yeah,
controller with
it
L and
looks
R buttons.
nice.
Yeah, it looks
But
nice, but
the control is a little mushy on the control pad, and the shoulder buttons are kind of, I don't know, just a little off. It's not my favorite.
they kind of just threw it together, which
Yeah.
Sega at that time, unfortunately, and this is we're not going to be bashing the main Segas and Nintendos.
Oh, we certainly are.
Well, we're not going to try to make, we're not going to, we're going, yeah, you're the fanboys. Well, I can put on some flame retardant stuff in there, but Sega just did some stupid things
Oh,
there,
they
and
did.
they
I'm
did.
not gonna sugarcoat it. I love Sega, but damn, it's like perfect example. I went to the Jaguar game today, and they're terrible. I'm a Jaguars fan, even though they're terrible. So Sega, they were terrible. I'm still a Sega fan. I guess
Uh,
I just like bad stuff.
no, I mean Sega, like I said, I just ended up well, not having Sega stuff because I got into the Nintendo route, and a lot of kids either
Yeah,
got into the Nintendo route or they got into the Sega route.
yeah, you
And
couldn't afford both.
well, you couldn't
Most
even, you weren't
people could.
affording. You were begging your parents. You're like,
Yeah,
okay, for the love of God, shut the fuck up. I'll go buy you a system. Will you shut up? Yes. Okay.
and to be fair, your parents were gonna call it Nintendo no matter what you bought,
That was
anyways.
saying, are you playing Nintendo? I'm
I
playing
remember
it.
being on Nintendo restriction. I'd be like, okay, and I'd pull on Sonic 2, and they're like, I thought you were on Nintendo restriction. I'm like, well, this is Sega Genesis, mother. And then you'd be like, okay, that's another week of restriction.
You're on Sega Nintendo restriction. Damn it. Go get me hey, you got a TurboGrafx 16? All right.
I wish. God.
I see one of the guys, Happy Console Gamer. He's one of the guys I subscribe to. He does a lot of TurboGrafx 16 stuff because that's what. And see, he's in Canada,
Yeah.
and he grew up differently. Well, he was in a big TurboGrafx 16, and
Yeah.
I started looking at it going, that system was damn cool.
It
Actually,
is
the
neat. Yeah.
PC Engine was engine or PC Engine. I call it Engine. I think it was the wrong way of saying
Engine.
it. I think as a kid I pronounced it wrong, so it stuck in my head. PC
Yeah.
Engine, and it's just like that was a cool system. And that system and the Master System were screwed in the United States
Oh, yeah.
well, it was a lot of times the reason why the Sega Genesis had a lot of problems even starting out is that bullshit that Nintendo had. Well, you published a game on our system, you can't publish anywhere else. Herpa derpa derpa derp, and then
Yeah.
finally the court said, "Fuck you, no."
Well,
So
like a lot of little publishers, because Nintendo had that wacky rules, like you can only publish like 5 games a year,
right,
and so like Konami and stuff were like, okay, hey, look at this company called Ultra Games,
and
and
I
may
didn't
or may
notice
not be
that.
affiliated with us.
I thought they were all different, and then like I said,
Yeah,
AVG and all these other great YouTubers. They're like, well, this was the thing part of Konami because they were doing this. I was like, what?
yeah.
Really? Oh fuck, that's awesome.
So they're out sneaked them.
They weren't as bad as Tengen, and I didn't know. I always wondered what was up with Tengen, and they
Yeah,
went and got that lockout chip cracked, but they did it illegally.
Um, the controls on the Neo Geo Pocket Color are great. I love that little control stick, man. And it makes the little clicky sounds when you're moving
Hush.
around. Click, 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 click.
I would love to get my hands on some Neo Geo stuff. I am a big Fatal Fury fan.
Oh, I love Fatal Fury. I'm terrible, and I don't know I don't know a whole lot of the lore, but if I had to pick a fighting game to throw my towel under or whatever, it would be Fatal Fury. I like the King of Fighters guys and stuff.
Okay, I just get we did we tweeted beforehand if say Sega Galactico and I did, or actually he did, and tagged me, and then people asked some questions. And we'll do this every single time we start a
Ooh.
podcast. And somebody, KELLILANE 11 on Twitter just asked,
Oh yeah, Kelly. She's
yeah,
cool.
Kelly, and is it too late to play now? Of course not. Always tweet us. We're going to try to get this to where we'll start tweeting out. We'll get this better, guys. But she asked, who was your favorite boss fight of all time?
Oh snap.
Oh, man. Way to hit the first big question. This is a good. Let me think. Oh, two old
Man.
farts here are gonna have their brains fried. Give us a few.
Well, Kelly says of all time. So of all time, I would have to say the one that stands out to me is the final boss fight in Metal Gear Solid 4 for PlayStation 3. I know it's not retro, but you said of all time. So I'm just going by your rules, Kelly. You started this, so it's going to finish.
The can of worms has been opened.
So, like, the reason I like it so much is it takes the final boss fights from the first three Metal Gear Solid games and packs them into this one. So, like, there's like four stages of this boss fight. So the first part is just like the first Metal Gear Solid final boss fight. The music is the same, the way you're fighting Liquid is the same, and then it goes to phase 2 and it's just like Metal Gear Solid 2's final boss fight. You're fighting Liquid, it's different, but it's just like that one. And then finally you get to the third phase and it's just like the CQC battle against Big Boss and the end of Metal Gear Solid 3, and the music is changing and it's just a big giant nostalgia boss fight. And if you're a big fan of Metal Gear Solid like I am, then it's just, I don't know, I was very pleased with it. I know a lot of people give that game shit because of the super long cutscenes, but I mean, that boss fight, I it's the first thing I thought of. So I mean, I guess I'm gonna go with that one.
Well, that's I've never been a really big fan of Metal Gear Solid series, not because it sucks. I know it's a fantastic series. It's just not been something I got into. Don't know why, but and if you're a fan or listen to me, you're probably gonna roll your eyes and go, "Oh God, Pickio Gamer, why?" But it's got to be Chrono Trigger Lavos, and the only reason I say that is the way the game built up to Lavos, it's to a point where he was mythical. And you see, you see glimpses of him. When you get to him, you stand in front of him, and he takes up half the goddamn screen. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, I just shit myself. Hold on, I gotta go to the bathroom. And then that's the first form. Then you go inside of him and you fight this big monster, mechanized version of him, and it's just like, oh, I beat him. What? Huh? Stage 3, and then that music, that last bit of music, is like dunna 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 dunna, and then you're in a time vortex, and all the bits of time where you play through the game go out, and then depending on where he's at is depending on some of the powers he uses, and it's just and then that and how you beat him.
Yeah.
He is not what you think in the center. There's three parts of him, and you have to. I'm going to keep that part for anybody that hasn't beat him. You don't kill the main part of him. It's a damn double, double cross, and it's just like, oh my gosh! And once you get done with that, you put the controller down, and you're like, oh, I'm mentally spent, and it's awesome. So
Oh shit, yeah.
that's good stuff.
That actually reminded me of that made me think of a good topic we can do on one of the episodes. We can just talk about boss fights.
Yeah, why don't we? I mean, well, we can, unless we get somebody that's going to come on next week, which we can introduce that in the next weeks. But like I said, it's
Yeah.
pretty fluid. So episode 2 so far, we'll just talk about boss fights. We'll write up our favorite boss fights
Yeah.
over the time, and if somebody wants to come in, we'll adapt that.
Yeah.
We'll
Yeah. Guests, I think they should have, if there's something they wanted to talk about, or yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, a guest says, "I want to come on there." Okay, we'll put that person, him or her, and we're not limited to whoever wants to come on here. We're not saying only guys or anything should come on here. There's a lot of gaming girls. Everybody, come on here and be a part of this, and we'll push that other one off to another episode. We want people to talk. So, we're going to be the next big topic we're going to talk about is boss fights. What makes a good boss fight? What was the most memorable boss fights and everything else? Um, and if you want to come on the show, we'll put you first. That's all about getting the fans in here. So
Especially our fellow frogs at skirmishfrogs.com.
yes, go please. Put the blurb out. Almost forgot that. Talk about that, would you please, sir?
Well, skirmishfrogs.com was this great invention created by the one and only Eric Bailey, the at Nintendo underscore legend that everyone is this loves on Twitter, and for good reason. He's hilarious and he knows his video game stuff. He's created a bunch of sites in the past, and he finally made this Skirmish Frogs, which is just a big community of retro gamers just posting whatever they want about the things they love retro gaming, and it's awesome. There's so many cool videos. Some of my favorites, like there's Picky Old Gamer. I think you've heard of him before.
I never
There
heard of him
was,
before. He sounds like an ass. Oh,
yeah.
wait a
Well,
minute.
he is. That's why I like him. It's just, then there's the Let's Cast Curaga. That guy,
Oh yeah,
he's
he's
got
good.
some. There's the dude that does Overkill. He's really cool. Gamer Dad stole my idea. Well, he didn't really steal. He just did it before me because his kid's older than my kid.
Oh
But in a
wow.
few years, well, my kid will be right up there making YouTube videos.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of good people on
There's
there. I
so
mean,
many. Like we could just do an episode on that.
yeah, I mean, we could do that. I mean, I like to have Eric on the show sometime
Oh
and just
yeah.
say, "Hey, what made you want to go to this? What made you want to do this?" And it's a good site. I mean, go to skirmishfrogs.com. Yes, it is a play on Battletoads.
What? What's that?
Uh, oh, what's
Is that
that? No,
anything like Conflict Lizards?
it's not. Well, let me take that back. Battletoads copied us. Wink,
What's a
wink.
Battletoad?
I don't know. They're asses or something like that.
Huh.
And oh well, we're sitting here, we're talking, and another question came through.
Holy fuck!
So we're actually getting people are interested in us. Oh my
Wow,
God!
this is
What
insane.
is your favorite retro system, and why is it the TurboGrafx? Thanks, Dell.
Dell is cool. I like Dell. He follows. He follows us, and he's always saying some funny stuff. Why is my internet not working? Fuck you. So,
Oh, your internet's not working. How are we talking?
well, okay, on
Hmm.
my phone.
Oh, your phone. I was like,
I
wait a
was
minute.
checking Twitter on my phone.
This isn't one
Like,
of
cause
these.
that's stupid. I'm sitting in front of a computer that has Twitter just fine, but
I was like, wait a minute. How am I talking to you? Am I talking to one of those? Oh, you're not going to be like with the ring. You're going to come out of the computer, are you? Oh, fuck.
well, the TurboGrafx is my favorite retro system because I've never played it that much. So since I've never played a bad game on it, obviously it's just good games. That's my answer.
My favorite system has got to be the TurboGrafx because they put the CD on there and they have Fighting Street. What is that? I don't know. Actually, it was kind of a neat thing is they had the first Street Fighter game, which is called Fighting Street, before Street Fighter 2 hit the world and pretty much just, dragon punched everybody into fighting games. Street Fighter or Fighting Street was on a home system, but
Yeah.
it was the PC Engine CD. A lot of people, I still forget that. So, it's a good question. I mean, if I had to go out of that, what's my favorite retro system, realistically, outside of the TurboGrafx, I got to lean toward the Super Nintendo. It's a great system just because it took Nintendo and made it even better. And, what else can I don't know what else you can say about it. It's just a fantastic system. What about you?
Um,
Outside of the TurboGrafx, which we know is the
well, I also
best.
want to point out that Lords of Thunder is on the TurboGrafx, and that has amazing music.
Oh, yes, it
Um,
does. I've seen that on
in
YouTube.
fact, there's a band that covers it called Lords of Thunder, and there's this guy Lobos, and he's a fantastic guitar player, and he's actually covered Sky Shark, which is very challenging. It's another Tim Fallon classic. So, favorite retro system besides the TurboGrafx. Um, I really love the Genesis. I grew up with it. The Dreamcast. I get so much nostalgia thinking about like Phantasy Star Online. Like that, if I hear the music for Phantasy Star Online, I instantly just go back in time to sitting in my friend Russell's like living room, like 2 a.m., just playing Phantasy Star Online, uh, drinking Big Red and regretting every minute of it. God, Big Red is the worst. And I
Oh,
remember I went in his pantry. I was like, "You got anything to drink?" And he's like, "We got Big Red." I'm like, "What's that?" He's like, "Drink it." And so I tried it, and I was like, "This is the worst thing I've ever tasted."
yeah. I'll have another.
Yeah, I know I didn't actually. I was
I
like,
did.
"Fuck this stuff."
But
And I guess technically it's retro now, but I just think the library of the PlayStation 2 was so great. Um, so was it's this is a tough question
it is.
because it's like one of those where one day it could be the Dreamcast, then the other day I'm like, oh man, Bushido Blade on the PlayStation. Oh, that alone makes me want to pick the PlayStation because Bushido Blade is awesome. I could
Yeah.
do an episode on that. It would be short, but I could do an episode on that.
In like to me, some days it's Super Nintendo, and some days it's the original PlayStation.
Yeah,
So much nostalgia. I know I went away from Nintendo because I was like, I didn't want the cartridges, and I went to. I mean, I had Final Fantasy VII. There was a Battle Arena Toshinden playing Tekken's on it. It's just so much
Final
good.
Fantasy Tactics.
Yeah,
That that's one of my favorite games of all time. I'm just gonna throw it right there.
I mean,
So
it's just awesome system. And it's just like sometimes it's just like they're in my mind just button heads, and I can't decide because they're so
okay,
great.
PlayStation is mine. There you go. Fuck it. Final Fantasy Tactics. Yeah, PlayStation. Come on.
Right. Well, I
Any
think
more
we're
last minute questions? Like we're gonna make these fuckers talk for 3 hours.
yeah. I'd say I think we're going to have to call this because I mean we're over 30 minutes. It's okay. We're going to shoot for like 30 minutes, up to an hour. If
Yeah.
people want to listen to our stupidity, it's great. If we I hope we don't get any questions here very soon. If we don't get to your questions now, we will turn around
Next time.
and next time and get to your questions. You're not going to be ignored, and we appreciate everybody sending out their questions. So I think this time we're going to call it. So I appreciate everybody that listens to our insanity. This is the first episode of Boss Rush podcast. This is Picky O Gamer and then my cohort,
Sega Galactico. You can follow us at Sega_legend.
and I'm at Picky O Gamer. And make sure you hit skirmishfrogs.com. Seriously,
Yes. Fiercely.
we're going to send a robotic master system and NES out to punch you in the face if you don't. Actually, no, we still love everybody. Please don't hate us.
Rob.
But we seriously, it's a great website. If you love retro gaming, you love just to see all sorts of things. I mean, it's different every day. Every so often through the day, I'll just tap it on my phone and while I'm working. I work from home. I'm like, really? That's neat. And I'll wait till after work and pull it up and go, well, that's cool. I mean, it's awesome. Please go to that. So again, we appreciate everybody listening. This is the first podcast. All right, people. Yo Gamer, Sega Galactico, out.